Mixing with Mike, plugin of the week is the Universal Audio Neve 1290 Preamp. The Neve 1290 Preamp is a standalone preamp that was created originally for the Wessex A88 and 8014 consoles. This goes all the way back to late 60s, early 70s. It is the same preamp that you'll find in the Neve 1073, although it does act a little bit differently without all of the rest of the electronics that are included with the whole equalization circuit that's in the 1073. The original standalone was a mic only, although UA has adapted it to allow for line input signals to be brought in. The fundamental operational idea is to have a preamp that you can use in a unison pre. So if you're setting it up for unison, you'll switch it over to the mic setting. If you're going to use it in a mix setting for tonal coloration, you switch it to the line setting. And what it does is it still uses the mic preamp electronics, but it pads down the input signal by 30 dB. And therefore, when you set it with a pad coming in at minus 30, adding 30 dB of gain, you have a starting point. To make up for any other colorations, if you want to overdrive it more or less, you have an attenuation at the output. This was not part of the original. Minus 24 up to plus 12. You have a power switch that turns it in and out. The preamp stages go in 0.5 dB steps. You notice the numbers are in minus, which is sort of unique because it would match the amount of the basically gain standard of whatever microphone that you were plugging in. So if it was already at minus 60 dB, to get it up to line level, you would click there and it would match up the microphones. A little bit backwards with the way you might think about it. But essentially, when you go up here, you're getting more gain. That's the bottom line. Phase inversion switch and also a high pass filter, which is set to 80 hertz and is 18 dB per octave, so pretty steep. So when you actually use the plugin, and the way I'm going to demonstrate it here is not in the unison preamp stage, but I'm going to demonstrate it in a mixdown where we can use it to show off tonal coloration. So what I have here is actually a mono and a stereo preamp, and I have it set up here in the first plugin slot on about 20 tracks or so. I run group automation here, so when I hit the power switch in and out here, it will turn off all of the mono tracks and all of the stereo tracks. It's just a thing with Pro Tools grouping automation. It will only do mono tracks linking and stereo tracks linking together, so I'll do it that way. And otherwise, let's dive right in and have a listen. So let's listen first without the preamps, so you get an idea of what it's like without.
All these crazy feelings, what you expect me to do when it's late in the evening, and I tell you like, kiss me on my neck, tell me how you like it when.
Okay, and now we'll pop it in, have a listen this way.
All these crazy feelings, what you expect me to do when it's late in the evening, and I tell you like, kiss me on my neck, tell me how you like it when I walk in a room, baby, cause we always win. We got that fire that we just cannot contain. And I like when you say my name.
One of the things that I think is important to listen for, because sometimes with things like this, it's hard to tell what the difference is. And if you really focus on the solidity of the imaging, so as you're listening to it, notice how particular instruments like the vocal or anything become a little bit more solid or a little bit more focused. So it's not going to give you more high frequency. It's not really the design. Transformers, and this has the Marinair transformer, I believe, in the circuit. If it's the same as the 1073, which has the Marinair transformer, then you'll get a bit of warming immediately from that. But basically, it's a Class A transistor-based design of this whole preamp stage. And so if you listen again when I take this in and out, and just notice how it makes things a bit more solid and a bit warmer, but you'll see like that there's more focus in the individual instruments when it's in. So right now it's out.
All these crazy feelings, what you expect me to do when it's late in the evening, and I tell you like, kiss me on my neck, tell me how you like it when I walk in a room, baby, cause we always win. We got that fire that we just cannot contain. And I like when you say my name. Had to find what I
So I really love the sound of this. It kind of gets rid of this thing I'd like to call like a digital fuzz that sometimes happens, which is not really so true to the analog world, where I think in the analog world, high frequencies get tamed down more naturally just in their, going through components and cables and everything else, more so than in digital, which seems to preserve all this stuff. So when you bring something like this, it adds like a great warming and solidifying character to it. One thing I wanted to just kind of show off here, and if we wanted to kind of drive this a little bit more, I'm going to push this up 10 dB and then pull the output back about 10 dB. It's important, if you switch or if you decide you want to drive it, if you flip it to the mic, it will still push signal through, but it will bypass that 30 dB pad. So you'll end up with 30 dB extra gain. So just be very conscious of that if you flip to the mic, that you are going to get a gain differential on there. And so let's just see if we drive this a little bit harder, what that sounds like.
all these crazy feelings, what you expect me to do when it's late in the evening, and I tell you like, kiss me on my neck, tell me how you like it when I walk in a room, baby, cause we always win. We got that fire that we just cannot contain. And I like when you say my name.
So subtle, but a little bit more edge. The other way to go would be to pull this back, and then I could push this, back here. The hard part is just matching up the gain, because you don't see numbers specific to what you're doing. But let's do a little comparison of this. So this will give a little bit more headroom with a different preamp setting.
All these crazy feelings, what you expect me to do when it's late in the evening, and I tell you like, kiss me on my neck, tell me how you like it when I walk in a room, baby, cause we always win. We got that fire that we just cannot contain. And I like when you say my name. Had to find
So here, I kind of like the way that sounds right in there, right about in that level. But it's actually, they're very subtle tonal colorations. You could actually dive in a bit more and get more into a heavier overdrive. Let me just take the grouping off here, for example, and solo up the bass. So if I have the bass preamp here, I can drive this a little bit more. So you can see how you can drive it on that. And if I leave this down and switch it to mic, this will just start a little earlier. And so as you start to play with it, sometimes things like this can be really good, especially for these super low frequency bass things to run in parallel, because you can get a little bit of an edgy character that will help it actually cut through, especially on smaller speakers and that type of thing. Very cool for stuff like that as well. It's just as simple as can be. It's just just the preamp, perfect for using in unison pre-tracking sessions, just to keep the CPU hit down. So this is very significantly lighter than the full 1073, which this would be a part of. And if you were to compare it to the 1073, there is a variation of it, and it has to do with the way it interacts with the rest of the electronics. But really another great piece by Universal Audio, the 1290 standalone preamp. There actually were not a lot of them made, so it was sort of a very unique thing, although there have been many recreations of them in hardware form. It's probably the most re-emulated preamp of any preamp probably in professional audio. Certainly a classic, an all-time classic, and a great measure of the true genius of Rupert Neve. There you have it. Plugin of the week, Universal Audio Neve 1290 preamp, mixing with Mike.